All right, that seems to be working. So we can get started in a second. It seems like everyone who's joining for now, folks join later, that's fine as well. And I'll restart the recording and then share my screen. So this will all be recorded. That way you'll all have access to it later on. And we will also share the slides. All right, recording. Great, here we go. Well, thank you all for being here. We're excited to share this seminar of the American Computer Science League, or ACSL, walkthrough with you all and talk about some other contests we support as well. And so I'll just briefly go through this agenda before handing it off to my co-host, Andrew, here. We're excited to welcome you all to this seminar and share a little bit about what the ACSL is. I realize that might be old news to some of you, but we would like to include everyone, no matter what your experience with this competition in the past. And yeah, that means just going into details about the schedule, the format of the American Computer Science League, and the ACSL divisions. Andrew's also going to give a great demo on how to compete in the contest, both accessing the platform that students use to compete and solving a sample problem like they may have seen in a prep class or might see in the first contest if they haven't taken it yet. And then we'll spend a little while talking about other competitions at the end. So I think this event was originally scheduled for an hour. I would be surprised if we use all that time. We're hoping to be a little bit under that, but that way we can leave plenty of time for questions and answers. And we encourage you throughout the webinar to use the chat and Q&A for your questions as well, just so you can share things as you think of them. But yeah, first I'm excited. I realized I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Mark. I'm the operations manager here at KT Byte, and I also instruct some of our classes. With me tonight are Eula, a member of our ops team who will be supporting this event, and Andrew Chen, our presenter, who also teaches our ACSL prep classes. He was a star student of ours back in the day and kind of worked his way up through the teaching assistant and instructor roles. And I'll let him say a little bit about himself as well.
Hey everybody, my name is Andrew Chen. I'm a part-time instructor at KT Byte, also a current computer science major at Cornell University. In terms of my experience with ACSL, so when I was in high school, I spent about 3 years competing in the contest, as well as in my final year coaching my high school team in the senior division to place about second in overall out of all the high schools. And then this is my second year teaching the ACSL classes. Oh, Mark, could you actually give me a co-host, please?
Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry about that. Here, I'll stop my share as well. That way you can just pick up where I left off. And that should be better now.
Cool. Let's see. Okay, cool. Yeah, so ACSL has 5 different divisions. Our prep classes support 4 of them. So elementary is for students who are around the elementary school age, so 8 to 12, grades 3 to 6. And there's no programming, it's just short answer topics. It does require a little bit of computational thinking though, so we typically recommend students who are enrolled in competition or classes such as Core 2A, Core 3 level is typically a good fit for the class. And then we have the junior level class as well, for ACSL, the junior division. That's typically for middle school students or early high school. And that does involve a programming section. So typically we want to see students in Core 3 and Core 4 for that. Intermediate is very similar to junior, except with a couple more short answer topics and definitely a harder programming section. So that typically we like to see advanced junior high students or generally high school students with some programming experience in that class. So that's around the Core 5 level in terms of the programming proficiency required for those problems. And then for the senior division, we typically like to see high school students. This is for high school students who are excelling in the competition and really want to challenge. So students typically have around a Core 6A or AP Computer Science experience coming into this, or any equivalents before they attempt the programming section as well as the short answer section for that division specifically. A little more into what specifically the content looks like as you progress throughout the different divisions. So the elementary division has, again, all short answer problems. And then you have one contest where each contest is one topic for a total of 4 topics throughout the entire season. As we move to junior, we introduce more topics. There's a total of 12 different topics in junior, 3 per contest. There's programming introduced for the first time there as well that requires some programming fundamentals to get those, again, mentioning those core classes that are needed in the previous slide. And then intermediate, again, takes a step up. There's 3 more short answer topics that are introduced. Programming does take a step up as well. And then senior division is really the same topics as intermediate. And the programming problems look similar with just an added challenge. And so they tend to be a little more advanced. So we think of seniors sort of in an advanced intermediate level, basically. To give you an idea of what the programming looks like specifically, those of you who are familiar with the USA Computing Olympiad or USACO, the programming for a senior typically falls around the sort of the lower end, easier USACO bronze level. So that is to say that the programming problems are still very much implementation based or brute force versus having to need any, there's no need for any optimization or advanced algorithmic thinking still, even at the senior level. But those programming problems still end up being a bit heftier compared to the previous divisions overall. So the format of the contest, so there's 2 sections. Well, for elementary, it's 1 section. There's a programming section that, again, elementary doesn't have. That is, students are given 72 hours or 3 days to complete it. Typically, students will begin this section on a Friday afternoon so that they can work on it over the weekend and end on a Monday. Just a quick disclaimer is that the 72 hours is not representative of the difficulty or the heftiness of the programming problem. The purpose of it is really to give students a lot of thinking time and time to just work on it work on their almost like a mini project is what the programming problems tend to be over the course of a couple of days. But I generally see students, and from personal experience, these problems take around between 1 to 4 hours really to really complete. But again, students have that flexibility and not really having, they don't really have a time crunch during the season when completing these competitions. That does change for the All-Star contest where there is a time crunch, where there's more problems and less time given. But for the general seasonal contests overall, students don't see that. And so how is that graded? The code is run on 5 test cases, a point each, and for a total of 5 points. I'll go into a little more depth in a little bit about exactly what that looks like on HackerRank. And so, yeah, that's the programming section. For the short answer section, that's a 30-minute test. Topics range from different contests to where they change from different contests to different contests, and they change between divisions as well, as outlined earlier. They are generally classic CS concepts that are taught in college classes, university level classes. They go beyond just programming and core programming concepts that you would typically learn in any classes here, and they require specific training. They're more theoretical computer science concepts overall. So these topics range from computer number systems, so base conversions, binary hexadecimal octal, Boolean algebra, graph theory, so adjacency matrices, recursion, code tracing, pseudocode reading, pseudocode tracing overall, logic gates, so again, sort of that low-level software or hardware concepts, data structures, stacks and queues, Lisp, a very old functional programming language overall, assembly, regexes. So these are all college level data structures and computer systems programming concepts. I will say from personal experience that college computer science classes are much easier after having spent so many years with ACSL overall. So these topics really do come back again, should a student decide to go to college and major in computer science. So how is this graded? This is 5 short answer problems that cover the 3 topics that are covered. That's for junior, intermediate, and senior. And then for elementary, those are 5 questions, but on the same topic for that contest. To go a little more in depth and give you an idea of what the contest exactly looks like, I'll click on this link here. So ACSL has a student guide on their homepage that you can look at as well. I'll just walk through this just to show you what exactly is or what exactly you'll see when you're taking the contest and how to join it. So we're just kind of use some of these screenshots here to show a little bit. I'll zoom in a bit so you can see this. And anyone can access this page as well on acsl.org. So we start by accessing the contest through an email. So those who are in junior, intermediate, and senior divisions will receive 2 emails, one for programming and then one for shorts. And then elementary students only receive the shorts contest. So people can take the contest really at any time and can take these 2 sections separately. It's just whenever you're ready, as long as they happen before the deadline for the contest. I'll talk about scheduling a little bit later as well. So yep, you click in. And then it brings you to the HackerRank platform for both the shorts contest and the programming contest. This screenshot's for the shorts contest, in which you put in your email address, your full name, password, for using a HackerRank account. The email for the HackerRank account, as far as I know, doesn't have to be the exact same as the one that you use to sign up for the contest, just because the email itself contains a custom link that brings you to a custom form that'll be associated eventually with your profile on ACSL. So as far as I know, that isn't something that one has to take care of. Yeah. And then there's a programming problem, I guess, screenshot here. Yeah. So just a quick declaration statement saying that you won't cheat, and then you would take the contest. So this is for the. So I guess this is for the. So this is for like a general HackerRank screenshot. I see. Yeah. So then, for the programming contest, you take 72 hours to do the problems, and then short answer, it's 30 minutes. For the short answer problems, this is the interface that students will see overall. So students go in to solve the different problems. It's 30 minutes, 5 problems, around 6 minutes per problem. They are multiple choice, so there is no partial credit. Something that I tell to all of my students is to take a lot of time to practice down, not just for speed, but also for accuracy as well. Typically, students who are well trained will end up being able to solve these problems in around 1 to 2 minutes, and then that gives them adequate time to check their work. Yes, and then the programming problem is also solved on HackerRank. HackerRank has a great platform for this, so students will write their solution. So that they'll be given a prompt on the left over here. Students will then basically just write the solution in a function. Again, there'll be template code given to them, and they'll simply write their solution there. And then their code will then be run against 10 test cases, actually. 5 of them are shown, and then 5 of them are hidden. The 5 that are shown are used to help students to debug through their code and check to make sure that they actually understand the details of the prompts themselves, and possibly some edge cases too. The 5 hidden test cases are the ones that are actually used to score the student. So the student will then have their solution run on 5 hidden test cases. The student will see the results of the test cases themselves, but not exactly what the test cases are. And so again, that really determines the score, and the score is out of 1 point per test case, so it's 5 points for the programming overall. Yep, and that's just outlined over here as well. So people can go back to this page as well, to the student guide page, to take a look at this as well. Okay. So students who end up excelling in the contest throughout the competition can participate in the All-Star contest. So typically the qualifying score. So each competition is 10 points, is out of 10 points, with a total of 40 points for the season. And then for elementary division, it's 20 points because it's 5 points per contest. It's considered the end of the year invitational or All-Star contest. Involves typically a qualification of around 26 out of 40 points, historically, is what I've seen. It is a 5-hour competition, or approximately 5 hours, with a break in between, with much harder programming problems, as well as much harder short answer questions and less time as well. I believe it's about 10, between 10 and 20 short answer questions that students are given. So the contest is a lot longer. And then the programming this time, students are not given 72 hours for each programming problem, but rather about 3 to 4 programming problems, and they're given a much smaller time frame for that. One of my favorite parts of the All-Star contest is actually the breakout discussion room. So ACSL actually introduced this very recently when they started the online remote program. So this is still relatively new, started in the last couple of years. So this is a place where this is a chance for students to meet ACSL alumni. So previous ACSL students who've gone on to go to college, graduate college, and really excel and really achieve success within the industry overall. So for example, in my experience, I got the chance to meet a Google software engineer who was working on Waymo, the Google self-driving car project, as well as an Amazon software engineer as well. Some of which I was able to make some connections with, and even make connections with and keep in touch with even outside of the contest itself. So it really is a great experience for a lot of the students. This is actually, yeah, my favorite part actually of the All-Star contest overall, to experience that. One thing I will note, based on the scoring, hopefully you can notice that so each contest is 10 points, and 26 out of 40 is all that's needed, typically around 26, 27. I can't predict the cutoffs for this year, but it typically lands around there. Students don't have to necessarily perform well or even actually take the first contest necessarily to qualify for the All-Star contest. So those who are able to definitely should. But for example, if you're just seeing this now and you're still interested in competing, even if you're not able to take the first contest, again, I'll talk about scheduling a little bit later and what we still have time for before as the contest run through. So even students, for example, if they don't even gain any points on the first contest, I have seen historically a lot of students who are able to excel in the other contests afterwards, and then through that are able to still achieve the cumulative score of 26 out of 40 and still qualify for the All-Star contest overall. So that's just something to keep in mind. I tell all students to not be discouraged, even if the first contest doesn't go as well as they would have liked as well. There's still opportunities to still make it and qualify for the national finals. So just a little bit on dates. So currently we're still in the contest 1 window, and we haven't actually reached the contest 2 window yet. So there's still about let's see here, still about a couple weeks, about 3 weeks left for the contest 1 window. We are saying that students should sign up before January 1st if they still want to participate and they haven't signed up yet, just so that they still have a little bit of a chance to finish to do contest 1. Those who join late and aren't able to start contest 1 or even learn the material, that's not, again, like I said before, it's not the end of the world. Contest 2, 3, and 4 are still plenty to be able to allow students to qualify for the contest anyways. So I'll give you an idea also as to where we are right now in the curriculum for the junior and the intermediate senior classes. So we are right now about halfway through contest 2 material. So we are at a point where one would have to self-study all of contest 1 should they join the class, but they're still able to pretty easily catch up on contest 2 material if they were to join the class at this point, basically. And contest 2 is actually not even available. So we will wrap up around sort of the end of January for contest 2, at which point students will then take the contest then. So let's see. Yeah, so that's it for some information about ACSL. I do want to show a quick sample problem. This one's from contest 2. This is actually a question that I posed to my own students a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about prefix, infix, postfix, actually. So the question says, evaluate the following prefix expressions. So just to give a little bit of background overall. So prefix notation is a mathematical notation used. It's also called Polish notation, and it's a mathematical notation where the operands precede 2 numbers, basically. So the way they're structured, instead of infix notation, as many people know, where the operand is between the operators between the 2 operands, we typically see operator and then another number, and then another number after that, basically. So that's how prefix notation is structured. The reasoning behind that is, so prefix notation is actually used in a lot of programming language interpreters. It's actually easier to parse through compared to infix notation. There's no need for memorization of an order of operations rules such as PEMDAS. There's no need for grouping symbols, no parentheses at all. So it's actually very to evaluate the expressions overall, it's actually a very simple rule. Students really just need to use one rule, which is just operator number to remember the prefix expression evaluation order, basically. So there's really no order of operations other than that one rule, which makes it actually so much easier to parse through for a computer in the first place. So anyways, that's the rationale for it. It was used in, again, a lot of the earlier languages as well, such as Lisp, which is, again, we consider the grandmother of functional programming languages. Lisp is really based based fully really on a prefix notation overall. So just talking about this problem a little bit. So again, the evaluation order is operator and then number. So we look for all the instances of operator, number, and then we perform the evaluation in that order. So again, and this, and by the way, this topic does apply to elementary, junior, intermediate, senior as well. So going through, I'll just copy this onto the next line. So we look for operator, number, and we evaluate accordingly. So I see over here, the up arrow stands for the exponentiation operator, and then we have a -3, 1 over here. So 10 squared is 100. So we evaluate that. And then we have a -3, 1 here. So we'll do 3 minus 1. So that gives us 2. And then I'll move to the next line. So again, I'm looking for operator, number as I go through to evaluate. I see a 5 times 100 here, and I see division A2. I group around the spot that I'm going to evaluate next. So I have 5 times 100, so that gives me 500. And then I have 8 divided by 2 over here, which gives me 4. And then I end off with plus 504. So then that gives me, so that's 500 plus 4. That's giving me 504. So that's an example of using prefix notation. This is actually a problem from a previous contest. So this is sort of to give you an idea of what exactly we're learning. This is one of the topics that students have seen on the contest. And with that, I'll hand it off to Mark to continue talking about ACSL. Oh, Mark, I think your microphone is not. I think the audio is not going.
Sorry about that. That's probably better now, huh? Great. Yeah, the old hardware mute. Yeah, before we go on, there was one Q&A that came up I thought maybe you could help with about the coding language in the competition, different or similar to what we use in KT by classes.
Yes. So I should have mentioned that actually. So yeah, so the programming section of the contest actually, I believe it takes, so definitely takes Java, C++, and Python. Those are the 3 main languages. I believe, yes, those are the 3 main languages that are taken on HackerRank.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I guess to speak to the syntax a little bit, there will be some difference in that the Java KT by students learn at a lower level is Java processing. So it uses functions like void setup and void loop to set up a more visual program. But the Java they type into HackerRank for the ACSL won't include those things. So they basically just be solving usually like a more numeric problem rather than trying to make a visual output. So that's the difference, but the coding language itself is the same. All right, moving on, I will share my screen for ACSL KT Byte, what that looks like. And so I believe Andrew already mentioned he's kind of taken charge on leading some of our prep clubs this term, which is super helpful. Also gives students at the elementary through senior divisions a way to prepare with their peers in a classroom format for anyone who that's really helpful for. We realize that won't be an option for everyone. In fact, not everyone would choose that option because you're very busy or the timing doesn't work out just right. So we do offer all students the option to sign up for a team for free as long as they're a current student, as long as they're not part of another team. So you can't take the ACSL as part of our team and also as part of your school's team because you'd see the contest twice and there'd be some liability there. But as long as this is your only ACSL registration, you're welcome to be part of our team. And if you're not a student currently this year, either fall or spring, there's just a $50 registration fee to help cover the cost of the contest for us. And I'll be happy to share that link later on. A lot of the links I have here, I'll probably share in an email, with the exception of the forum link somebody already asked about. So I put it in the Q&A as well. And feel free to use that to sign up for our teams if you haven't already. And so any student who's on our team is also eligible to sign up for our prep club or study materials. I'll share a little bit of what these look like just because I know there can be some confusion around them, a lot of different things. So here, I guess what'll work best is if I open another window here and just find one of these. The prep clubs or prep classes are just named ACSL Junior, ACSL Elementary. think the last one is just called ACSL Senior, even though it covers intermediate and senior divisions. And these are all classes in session, so you'd have to find them under here. But you can still see, there's 2/3 of this one left. It's not meeting over break, so that would resume in January. And like Andrew said, if you're to join one of these at this point, you would just still have to self-study the first 9 lessons. So contest 1 and part of contest 2 at this point. That is something we can occasionally arrange tutoring for, but honestly, if you're signing up for one of these courses or even the study materials, which I think I can find like this. Yeah, it worked. Okay, great. The study materials are basically the whole curriculum and recordings of the class. So with either of these enrollments for the prep club or for the study materials at the senior level, you get access to one of our class pages that looks like this. And it'll have the topic of each week's discussion, some shorts that you can practice with, a video link for makeup. You can watch a recording of that class. And so this is why we try to make these things available in several different ways. Both the study materials, the prep club exists for any of those divisions, and hopefully give students a way to prepare if they're not so inclined to self-study on their own. So that's a little bit about our offerings as far as ACSL is concerned. Now to answer a couple of questions, Q&A is empty now, but just some things that often come up as questions. The team aspect of ACSL is, I think, really a structure they put in place when it was solely organized by in-person high schools. And then since COVID, we've had the opportunity to bring more and more students in who are students online. So as a high school in-person contest, and Andrew, maybe you can relate to this from your days of participating, it would be more of like a sit down in the classroom, take a paper test, hand it into your advisor, and then they submit your scores to ACSL. And because we have this great remote option now, the contest will be completed individually by students at home. And so you don't meet with other group members to complete the contest, though if you're looking for other parents or other families to interact with, we have done this thing in the past where we'll just put out a mass email and say, hey, this is everyone on our elementary division team. Please let us know what requests you have, or feel free to talk about what self-study is working well for you. And that is how the contest will be done individually. The perk of that is that you can choose any date in this range. Let's see if I can go back a slide or two. To complete the contest. So if you're just signing up for contest 1 now or joining our team now, you still have the next 3 or 4 weeks. And maybe you don't start prepping for contest 2 late for that reason. You still have until March 5th to pick a date to do it. So we do encourage people to do it earlier. That way, if you're following along with the prep club, it keeps in pace and you have more time to review those materials, but you do have quite a large window for each of these. And oops, went a little too far there. As Andrew mentioned, students with the highest scores receive certificates and will be invited to the All-Star contest if you're at or above that cutoff. So great chance for students to feel some recognition from this and stay engaged with computer science as well. Just gives them something to apply their skills to that's less project-based and more about what they can achieve. To answer the question that just came through, I think I'll just answer this one with, can students try the contest program by themselves on their computer, or must they only use HackerRank? I believe because of the way it's set up, once you enter HackerRank, the platform, see the question, that is where your time limit starts to complete the programming problem. So you could copy it onto your computer and try it there, but you're still within that time limit that HackerRank imposes. To practice before getting onto HackerRank and attempting that problem, that is where the past contests are really helpful. And that's one resource we provide in spades through our study groups and study materials, and there's past contests on their site as well. I can show those in a second. Similarly, where do we go to start the contest? That will be in the contest invitation email. So if you're still looking for that, but you've been on our team for a while, maybe you're even in a prep club, you haven't seen the contest 1 invite yet, they will be sent to the student email we have on file from when you filled out that form. I know not all students are the best at checking their email. Some of them have pretty aggressive spam filters on. So do make sure to check that spam folder. And you can always send us a message if you don't see it there. And if you don't see it there, I'll just type a little response here. See the email. You can let us know at info@staff.ktbyte.com, and our operations team would be happy to help you out. So that's a little bit about how we like to support ACSL, and we're very proud to have over 50 students on our teams competing this year, though we still welcome more registrations with this link. And we do have, moving on from ACSL, some updates regarding other competitions we support. That said, if you have more questions about the ACSL walkthrough part of the seminar, which we're focusing on tonight, feel free to leave those in Q&A, and we'll get back to them in the official Q&A section at the end of this event. So a few things about our upcoming support for competitions. We've had the ACSL running for a couple of years now. The USAGO has been a staple of our offerings for way longer than that, longer than I've worked here. And something we've noticed with the USAGO is that it just keeps getting more challenging. Part of the reason for this is because more and more students in the United States and internationally are taking the USAGO. So they have a higher cutoff most years than the year before for advancing to a new division. And that does make it more prestigious if your students at the level where they enjoy trying USAGO problems. This is a good challenge for them. We definitely recommend that they continue. But we do want to offer more options for students in that beginner intermediate side of things. One really great one that's just opened up recently for international use is the CCC, or Canadian Computing Competition. Anyone's allowed to take it. You don't have to live in Canada. And in fact, KT Byte is registered as a school. What we started doing as a way to test this out, and I have a couple links here, you or your student can visit one of these links, which I'll send in an email after this. And we're trying to distinguish between whether you want to just try some problems or actually compete in the event. And that's just a matter of whether we're ordering you a contest come February. So if you're just trying some problems, that's great. We'd love to have you make an account with our school to gain access to those past problems and, try out their system. But ultimately, if you don't want to compete this year, that's totally fine. And we won't go out of our way to buy you a contest. The CCC is pretty great, though, in that the first 1 to 2 problems of each contest, first of all, it's all programming, so you don't have to study up on other topics. You can program in Java, just like a KT Byte class. And the first 1 to 2 problems of each competition every year are, at the junior level, pretty easy for students, even our core 3A classes, to solve. An example might be there's like so many boxes of cupcakes in a classroom. Each size of box has a certain number of cupcakes. And if you add up the total number and subtract the number of students, how many are left over? And so it's a kind of word problem they might encounter in like a middle school math class, for example, but can be a really good confidence booster of, hey, I tried this international competition that's on par with the USAGO in a lot of ways and was still able to get through problems 1 and 2. And by the time students are in our high school and almost college level courses like core 5A and above, they may even be able to place and do well in this competition with some prep. So we realize this is coming up. That's why we're pushing it out there now, just to see if folks are interested. And again, you're welcome to join our team. If you want help preparing, please let us know. Another opportunity coming up later in the year that we have a bit more time for are 2 called the Beaver Computing Challenge and the Australian Informatics Olympiad, which, because they have such long names, we generally refer to by their acronyms here. The BCC, actually, some of you may have participated about a month ago, was running in November. And it's similar to the challenge quiz a lot of students see in our courses. You don't need programming skills. It's a lot of just reasoning and problem solving. And I think it's pretty fun. It also does this the favor of dividing students up into divisions based on grade. So there's grade 5, 6 is one, grade 7, 8, grade 9, 10. And because of that, it's a lot easier to just like pick the one you're going to do. Students can join. They don't need programming practice beforehand. They can just take it and see how it goes. The AIO runs in August of every year, and that one does involve more programming, similar to the CCC. It actually has one of the nicer interfaces for practicing problems that I might just show here briefly. Excuse all my many tabs on this page. So even as a, if I don't have an account on their site, I can still view all of these past problems and try them out. And so you could look at something like, the selection problem and see that, oh yeah, it's really just adding up votes from, a few different types of submissions. And something that's really nice here is if you go to the submissions tab, I'll usually have these open separately. You can see why I have way too many tabs. There's actually a way you can choose a language like Java, and it'll give you a template that you can fill out. So for students who maybe haven't done the most with reading in file inputs and just like a little bit of structure for their competition problems, this is all really similar to how setting up a USICO problem would go. The only difference is this has a lot of helpful comments even for this specific problem, and can really help get students comfortable with this standard form of Java. Whereas, as I mentioned earlier, the Java students see in class might just not have quite as many of these keywords, or the functions might be called slightly different things, stuff like that. So that's the AIO. We'll send out more information about both of these, but given that today's topic is the ACSL, didn't want to go too in depth, except to let you know that there will be a poll at the end of this. Actually forgot to release the initial poll, so I'll do that now. But the poll at the very end will show a few options for further follow-up. So here, I'll launch the entry poll just a little bit late, and the exit poll before we wrap up will ask you what kind of follow-up you'd like. If you're interested in any of these competitions, we can send you more info that way. So realize that was a lot, but that's the CCC, BCC, and AIO. All three are great options for students just starting off with competitions. And then the USICO, as you mentioned, is for those more advanced students at about the AP computer science level. So if you're thinking about that as a goal, just be aware it's very normal for students to start practicing early on, not make a lot of headway, and then eventually when they get into our algorithm classes, feel like it makes a lot more sense. But that said, it's encouraged for all of these that students can just go try the problems whenever they want. It's never too early to start testing these out and seeing if it's something that's exciting for students to get into. And I'm just going to quickly check these Q&A, see if there's easy answers here. Oh, and one of these I'll answer live, but it does have to do with our new course codes, which I admit are something that trips me up as well. I'm very used to old course codes. I believe Andrew did a great job of putting them on here. So the core classes, or what we used to call fun and CS classes. And for the lower levels, it's very similar. So core 2A is fun 2A, core 3A is fun 3A. It's only a core 4A that it switches to what used to be called CS00A, which is kind of why we unify the names, just to help it make more sense. To answer Tony's question in the Q&A, CS01B is the new Core 5B down here, and Core 5A is the old CS01A. So those are both fairly advanced classes, similar to the intermediate division here. And USICO would be Core 6A and above, similar to the senior division down here. So Core 3A is definitely the easiest of those three. That's a great one to start with if, say, your student is in middle school and just wants to try some typed out code for the first time. We're a huge fan of that course. And then, yes, these higher levels are where the more advanced competitions will probably start to feel more and more accessible to them. Great. Well, moving on to one more thing before the Q&A. This is similar to what I was talking about in the last slide, but just to give a visual to it. The CCC, one reason we're advertising it and trying to promote it right now is because there's only one date you can take the contest in mid-February. And on that day, students can log in whatever time they want and have 3 hours to complete the competition. As it says here, you have 3 hours to complete 5 programming problems. The first 1 to 2 in the junior division are the ones that I'd say even core 3 or core 4 level students in our curriculum will probably be able to solve, kind of like that cupcake example I gave. It's a lot of simple math and conditionals. And as you get up to higher level junior and the senior division problems, it starts to resemble the USCO problems more in terms of difficulty. And one reason for that is because the CCC and the USCO are both IOI qualifier contests. So in other words, there's this international Olympiad of informatics that takes place every year. It's kind of like the global computing competition, and each of those could be a qualifier. So as students excel in the CCC, it has similar prestige to doing really well in the USCO. Both of these have a small fee for non-KT Byte students. Currently, the CCC, we only charge about $9 US because it's a fairly affordable contest. And as opposed to being put on a team, you just compete as an individual here for the CCC. And that is about all we had for those. I will open things up for general Q&A here, and would like to just start with what was submitted in the registration questions. Andrew, feel free to chime in on any of these as well. The difference between ACSL team and individual, I have to be honest, I'm not so familiar with the classroom division of ACSL, which I believe is what's being referred to here. As I think I answered in the Q&A, students do join our team. We get scored as a team, but you also compete in each contest as an individual. So I'm hoping that answers some questions, but Andrew, I don't know if you have anything to add there as well.
I'm actually personally not as familiar with the classroom division myself either. I forgot the format. Basically the same topics. The competition is just, I believe it's around 10 questions instead. Same topics, somewhere between elementary and junior is where that lies in terms of difficulty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Looking at their site right now, the classroom division is open to students in all grades and is just a longer short answer test. There's no programming problems. And yeah, we don't typically support that. We're more focused on the ones you can progress through that are more division based with some programming. But yeah, there is a team score. We're focused more on individual performance though. And that's what your student can focus on as well. In terms of which ACSL level is right for a student, I will refer, and I think there's a question in the chat like this as well. I will refer us back to this chart for a second. And again, Andrew, feel free to chime in if you have some more detailed notes. But I believe in general, a good policy is just to try, if you're stuck between two levels, trying the easier one. If your student's on the younger side and can try the hard one next year is a good way to go. And these age ranges are good guidelines as well. So if your student is under 15 and maybe getting to our core 5 level, but just hasn't done this stuff before, probably junior level is an easier place for them to start. Whereas if they did junior last year and it felt pretty easy, but definitely bumping up to intermediate could be appropriate. But yeah, I hope that answers the question in the Q&A. I don't know, Andrew, if you have any other thoughts on placement.
Yeah, so I saw a similar question in the chat earlier as well, which I answered in the Q&A. But I actually realized I want to add something else to that, which is so what's great is ACSL actually has a few study materials already available on their website. So there's actually a sample programming problem for intermediate and junior as well that the student can try, and they can gauge from that which one they think best matches their programming proficiency.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I'll be sure to include this with our follow-up email as well. But on the ACSL site for free, even if you don't use any of our resources, you can go here and look at junior versus intermediate, for example, what these contest problems look like. And so, you know, something like graph theory might have one type of question at a junior level and another harder type of question at this senior and intermediate level. Also, just a reminder from how this is laid out, you can access a sample contest of everything, shorts and programming, but especially intermediate to senior where the programming difficulty jumps up. You can use this to compare two programming problems here. So this page is probably the best way to have a student gauge what feels most comfortable to them, along with the age guidelines we mentioned earlier. Yeah, coming back to some of our registration Q&A. what's involved in the type of competition, how to know if it's a good fit. I believe we've covered the first part pretty thoroughly here. And again, the details we didn't get into, you're welcome to email us about or find on either our website or ACSL's. Uh, Knowing if it's a good fit is a harder question and something we honestly struggle with too. Something I've found as an educator, and I'm sure other people have very different perspectives, is whenever a student has maybe a like more competitive attitude, or if the typical problems they're doing in class just start to excite them less and less over time, competitions can be a really good way just to keep students engaged and trying new things in programming. And ultimately, that can lead to things you can put on college applications, or like Andrew mentioned, really good networking opportunities later on. So in that sense, that can be a really good fit for a lot of students. But knowing whether it's something they'll enjoy, I think just trying it out is honestly a great way to go. And then, yeah, as far as participation, if you're as young as 8 or 9, you can join the elementary division. Whether or not that'll be right for your student, as we mentioned, might be a little bit hard to tell. But I think generally just giving it a go while students are on the younger side can help them feel out whether it's something they want to commit some time to later on before they get really busy in high school. And then as far as the timeline each year goes, trying to do the contest between December and April, pretty much. You do have a bit more time than that, but if you want to give it just like a nice set schedule, there's really only like 4 months of the year that you have to be tuned into this. If you wanted to do, say, contest 1 in December and contest 4 in March, you could have it on that timeline too. And then just going ahead at the last one here as well, some competition options for novices. I believe we talked through a bit, but of the ones we mentioned earlier, probably the BCC is the most accessible to novices because it's non-programming. So that's the Beaver Computing Challenge here. And then after that, ACSL is one of the most accessible, as long as you don't mind self-studying those non-programming topics that you might not see in a coding class. And then the rest, all the CCC, AIO, used to go type contests will have some very challenging material on them, but especially in the case of the CCC, have some pretty accessible problems as well. Yeah, we'd welcome any other questions at this point. I also realize we're getting close to our time for tonight, so I'll launch our exit poll as well. Especially if you're hoping to head out soon, this is a great one just to mark if you're interested in follow-up and maybe what contests you'd like to learn more about. And as a reminder, everyone who registered, even if you couldn't be here, will be receiving this recording and also a link to sign up for the ACSL team, as well as the slide deck that we've been showing tonight. Yeah, if there are any other questions, feel free to share them in Q&A or in the chat. And even if you don't want to request a follow-up, anything you can share with us in that poll is very helpful for us, especially as we continue planning more of these seminars for the new year. And the last slide I'll share before going into any further Q&A and wrapping things up. We are very grateful for you all for being here, taking some time out of your evening. And if you didn't already know this, we have an early bird promotion running. So for our spring semester, you can use this code KTSpring23 for about the next 4 weeks. It's got a nice long window this time. We know everyone's schedules are in flux this time of year. So feel free to use this anytime within almost the next 4 weeks for your spring enrollment to get 20% off. And similarly, if you have feedback or just questions that weren't answered tonight, feel free to email us, give us a phone call, message us on WeChat if you have an account there. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from you. To answer one last question from the Q&A, well, unless there's more, which would also be fine. How are ACSL materials delivered to a student after enrollment? Assuming you mean enrollment in a study materials course, and so that would be the curriculum page I showed earlier. I'm not sure if I still have it up, but it basically has the week by week along with recording potentially and the topics covered in that class. You'll receive that in an email once you enroll in the study materials. If you don't see it, please let us know. You can even reply to your enrollment email and say, I haven't seen this yet. And that is how the study materials are sent out once they're purchased, once they're ordered on our site. If you enroll in a prep club, it'll show up more like a regular class in your student profile. And so you can join each week from that page. And thank you to everyone completing your exit poll. I see that most of you who are left have done that. And I also do see one or two recommendations for future seminars. I will definitely take those down. Thank you so much. To answer a couple of these new ones. Yeah, so if USIGO is too difficult for a student who just finished CSO1B, that's actually right about where we recommend students start USIGO prep. So to share our course progression for a minute. And this is the page I was talking about, study materials. The course progression that we like to share, I'll show a condensed version here. Core 5B, previously CSO1B, is directly before any of these USIGO prep courses. And so I think trying some USIGO problems, especially the contest one for this year just wrapped up, but students can try any contest. They can even try this year's contest one problems now to see if that's something they're excited about. It's never too early to start. So they could do that now. They could take our USIGO prep course in the spring. I think that would be appropriate for a student at that level. For Ethan, maybe I'll follow up with you, Ethan, in an email that, yeah, we do want to make sure your clip setup is working, but I'll answer that in a more of an email response. I think that might have also been our founder, Ben, who was talking with you. So I'll make sure we get an answer to you there. But thanks for letting us know. And with that, I believe that's all of our unanswered questions. And all of our slides. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And you have plenty of options to follow up with us, and we'll also be reaching out to those who requested it in the poll. All right, thanks everyone. I'm going to end the seminar there. And happy holidays. Hope you all have a great couple of weeks. Bye.